Hi everybody, I'm Zilla Blitz and welcome. While attending the recent San Diego Historical Games convention, I got a chance to sit down with Jason Matthews, the esteemed lead designer of GMT Games' upcoming game, Twilight Struggle South Asian Monsoon. Now this conversation started at a rather nuanced level, so before we dig in, I want to take a moment and give a quick overview of the Twilight Struggle series. The first game in the series is Twilight Struggle, published in 2005 and designed by Jason Matthews and Ananda Gupta. In this two-player game, one side takes the USSR, the other the United States, and they battle for world geopolitical domination from the end of World War II up to 1989. This accessible card-driven game is GMT Games' best-selling game, with well over 100,000 copies sold, and it regularly tops best wargame lists. It is a classic. In 2023, Jason Matthews returned to the series with Twilight Struggle Red Sea, Conflict in the Horn of Africa. This shorter Twilight Struggle game begins in 1974 and narrows its focus on the tensions in East Africa in the Arabian Gulf. At the time of this interview, Jason has once again returned to the Twilight Struggle series. With co-designer Jason Carr, the two are working on a third Twilight Struggle game that will start in 1959 and center on South Asia, the Indian Ocean, and China's Asian periphery. Let's jump into our interview with Jason. Hi everybody, I'm Zilla Blitz here at SDHistCon San Diego, and I've been graciously joined by Jason Matthews, who is the lead designer in Twilight Struggle South Asian Monsoon, which is the third game in the Twilight Struggle series. Thank you for joining.
My pleasure. Thank you, Mike, for having me on.
Absolutely.
And great to see you in person.
Yes, for the first time. And congratulations on your prestigious award yesterday.
Thanks. Yes.
As well. Yes.
One more foot in the grave, I guess. I've got 2 or 3 down.
Yes, Jason just received a Lifetime Achievement Award in the area of wargaming, right? I have to kind of put it succinctly. So.
Yeah, for sure.
So let's talk about South Asian Monsoon, and could you just tell us a little bit about the game and give a brief overview?
So everything that I have tried to do since we decided to kind of do a few sequels with Twilight Struggle system is to address problems in with the model that Twilight Struggle presents. In the case of South Asian Monsoon, I knew because in the case of Twilight Struggle Red Sea, I knew when I designed the game, because I was alive when it happened, that we sort of ignored the Horn of Africa, and it's something that happens towards the end of the Cold War, and since I remember the Ethiopian famines and all the rest of it, and I'd always meant to fix it with a card or something. And because COVID happened, I fixed it with a game. So I may have gone overboard. But anyway, I did that. In the case of South Asian Monsoon, you know, the China card in Twilight Struggle, it's cute. It's a funny mechanism. It's kind of a pun, really, because you're playing the China card.
Right.
But it doesn't actually reflect what occurred in that region of the world during the Cold War. And that triangulation between India, Pakistan, and China is actually extraordinarily important. But because we abstract out the Chinese to that extent, you can't quite get it right.
Right. And there's a lot of complexity in there to explore in a game format.
Yes, for sure. And there are a lot of important characters that get kind of left on the cutting room floor there. Nehru, Mao, all of these folks who are, you know, iconic in Cold War history, but who don't exactly get their fair share in the full game.
Okay, great. And now this being the third game in the series, one of the questions I imagine people are asking and wondering about, you know, Twilight Struggle obviously has had an amazing run. Tons of people have played it. If I'm a player of Twilight Struggle or Red Sea, what is there for me? Obviously, we've got new content and new topics, but what would be some reasons I would want to get this game?
So when I designed Red Sea, the object was to have an on-ramp into the Twilight Struggle system. And there were a lot of people who I felt had bought Twilight Struggle on the strength of its reputation, but it had been sitting on a shelf for 4 or 5 years, and I wanted to give those players a way to get into the system without making the full commitment. South Asian Monsoon is going the exact opposite direction. This is a game for Twilight Struggle sharks.
Okay.
And we're going to give them a new set of challenges and more headaches for them to juggle than they are familiar with. So it's going to be good history. They're going to learn some new stuff, but they're but it's really going to be good if you think you're good at Twilight Struggle. We're going to teach you you're not so amazing.
Okay, so would it be fair to sequence that you would recommend Red Sea as a good starting point, Twilight Struggle as your second level, and then now go into South Asian Monsoon if you feel like you've not exhausted. I mean, Twilight Struggle is a game that has incredible depth. I've played it a ton. I feel really competent with the first deck and comfortable with the second deck, but if you get me into the third deck and you know what you're doing, I'm totally toast. Absolutely toast.
Right.
So it would be fair to say this is a person who's played through Twilight Struggle, really enjoys it, wants to explore the new topic as well as take on the next level challenge.
Precisely.
And are there things you can speak to in this game then that specifically add that challenge? Is it just a different set of cards, or are there different mechanics and things like that?
One of the things that we're addressing, I think, in Twilight Struggle in the base game, there are a lot of instances where you get kind of a free play. It's not, there's no angst because, oh, well, I've got a neutral card, I can play it for free, I can take the event, I can take the ops. Well, we're getting rid of that.
Okay.
Now, if you have what seems like a good card, you can take the ops or whatever, but it's going to have this impact pertaining to the non-aligned countries, because the non-aligned movement sort of starts in this region, it becomes an important component of the Cold War, and those countries are sort of doing what they want with or without you. And so every time you're in a situation where you think, I get a free play, boom, all of a sudden one of your allies or one of the states you've been working on moves into the non-aligned movement, and
it messes up your beautiful plans.
Exactly.
And that seems to be part of the tragic joy of the whole game. I think what is adopted kind of brought people to it for the longest time is that you have these wonderful plans that interestingly go sideways before you get very far into them. And
precisely.
Yes.
We're providing a whole new mechanism to make that worse.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Now I have a question too. I know that I've played a lot of Twilight Struggle on its play deck version.
Yes.
Are there plans for bringing this game to play deck as well?
There-
for people that have enjoyed that?
I think that will be the natural outgrowth, yes.
But it's not being code-developed as this goes.
The Red Sea was more so that way, but at this moment we're not providing them, like, I'm not giving them daily card updates like I did a little more with Red Sea. We'll get there eventually anyway, so.
Okay, so it'd be fair to say you're looking towards it in the future, but
Indeed.
it's not actively being worked on.
Precisely.
Right, okay. I'd like to ask you a little bit about complexity. I mean, I think a lot of people are familiar with Twilight Struggle and understand its complexity. Just for those people that might be new to this, because we have a lot of new people coming into the hobby, how would you say this game will fit in the scope of wargaming complexity?
I mean, it will still be relatively low rules weight compared to a lot of more classical or traditional war games. It also will play in about half the time as Twilight Struggle. It'll be longer than Red Sea, but less than Twilight Struggle, so somewhere in the middle. I think in terms of the thing about Twilight Struggle is not that it's a complex game, it's an agonizing game. And we're not going to help you with that. We're really going to try and step on it rather than, you know.
But I think one of the things that I noticed with Twilight Struggle is, the complexity comes into the depths of strategy. So it's a game you can learn how to play relatively smoothly, but learning how to play the game well has levels of play.
That's exactly right. And that is the charm of card-driven systems and the brilliance of Mark Herman when he developed We the People initially. Each card is a rule, so I don't have to put them all in the rule book, and and the interactions between the cards provide interesting rules interactions at the same time that they give players a challenge. So that's one of the great things about that mechanic in the first place.
Absolutely. People always ask me, so I have to ask you, solitaire.
Well, the good news, bad news story is, the bad news is if you left it to me, the answer would be no. The good news is that my co-designer is Jason Carr, who is the solo bot guru for Twilight Struggle. There will absolutely be a solo bot before we're done with all of this. We haven't really started the development work. I think it will require a different approach than the Twilight Struggle, the solo bot in Red Sea. So it has to be worked out. It'll be a pain, but it's
getting a sense you're someone who loves solitaire. I'm glad there's another Jason 2.
Yes.
Or I'm not sure if he's one in year 2.
Jason
but
2 is going to be the lead on the solitaire. I will play, but
Right.
he's really going to be the designer of it. And so, yes, we will we'll make sure that that's a component of the next game.
I think we've talked a lot about the game, about the solitaire capacity, the complexity, the gameplay, where it fits in the system. We've covered all the things I was hoping to talk about. What are, if people want to know more about the game, where can they go to find out more? And I'd also wonder if you could say, how is it going along in its development process? When might people be able to say, I've got this on my table and I can play?
Fantastic. So there is a page both on the GMT website that has a discussion about the game, and it's been on Board Game Geek, where I've been uploading materials and sample cards, that sort of thing, so people can get a sneak peek of where we are. We are about to send it out to full playtesting, sort of the blind playtesters and the usual Twilight Struggle sharks, to see where we've made mistakes. We'll go through several iterations of that. I would guess that the P500 backers will have it in their hot little hands sometime next year, assuming China doesn't blow up or one of these other problems that has caused so much disruption for the hobby lately.
And just for reference, by next year, we're talking 2024. We're making this in late 2023.
Yes, right.
Yes. Okay,
Yeah,
great.
exactly.
Thank you so much for joining.
My
Thanks
pleasure.
for all your time, and congratulations again on your award. Jason
Thank you.
Matthews, lead designer for upcoming Twilight Struggle, South Asian Monsoon, available from GMT Games sometimes in 2024. I will put links down below in the description. Thank you everybody for watching.
Thanks.